JoshCast, dun 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 dun. No, it's the podcast that's been going on, dun 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 dun. Oh, for approximately more than half a year, and dun 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 dun. JoshCast, dun 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 dun. JoshCast, dun 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 dun. Yes, this is we're in our 33rd episode of JoshCast, which averages one view. And I think that's just me looking at it once it's just posted to YouTube. So at this point, I don't know who I'm talking to. Possibly nobody. I don't know. I'm really so miserable. Beyond miserable. Truly miserable. Which, for me, might be just the normal. I think I read somewhere that different people have different... and stop me if you've heard this before. But different people have different, I guess, resting emotional planes of existence. And some people are naturally happy, some people are naturally sad. And I think I'm one of those people who's naturally Jewish. That's where I'm at this point. I shouldn't blame Judaism for this. But on the other hand, if the Jew fits, I can't believe I just said that. Anyway. I'm feeling depressed because I'm not where I want to be career-wise, which I feel like I've explained before and talked about before in previous podcasts. So not only am I repeating myself, I'm going in circles. This is the thought I actually had. I promised somebody that I would write a script about saving the rainforest. And I was thinking about it today, and the thought occurred to me, well, what if I actually went to the rainforest and made a documentary about trying to save it? And the funny part would be me going into the rainforest. So it would be the funny part would be just me interacting with nature. And I thought about that, and then I said to myself, well, wouldn't that be cheating? Because if I was a true comedic genius, I wouldn't have to actually go to the rainforest to write a movie about saving the rainforest. And then I said to myself, well, now if I'm going through that line of thinking, am I saying that because I'm really afraid to go to the rainforest? Or am I genuinely making a good point? And then I proceed to spiral, and that's the point where I just become depressed. The overthinking of it. That's how my mind works. It's a beautiful process wherein I go back and forth, I look at all the options, and I do nothing. And conscience doth make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment by this regard their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. So I just quoted Hamlet there, which is beyond vanity, I think. I'm quoting Hamlet in a podcast that I'm recording that possibly one person is hearing, who is me. The only saving grace in this is that no one is hearing how egotistical this is. I am demonstrating the essence of if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it truly make a sound? If I record a podcast and no one is around to hear it, am I truly an artist? Wow. This is just snowballing into pure insanity. Transition, dun dun dun, transition, dun dun dun, transition, dun 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 dun, transition, dun dun dun. We are transitioning into another thought. Transitioning into another thought. Transition. So I bought a table at a comic book convention that's coming up at the end of November. And in order to get the table, I had to get a business license. And I had to go through the questionnaire of the business license, and it asked me, hey, how much money do you think you're going to make at this venture? and I am selling copies of my book called Cake and Sci-Fi. And I'm just wondering if I can tell the State Board of Equalization that instead of how much money I'm making, because I think if I tell them that, they will infer the actual profits. And perhaps, you know what? Let me just deduct it immediately. That's all I want them to say. Oh, that's what you're doing with this business license. I see. Don't bother. Don't bother. Don't waste your time or ours. No need to do the paperwork. We'll see you at the unemployment line next year. That's my plan. That's what I'm hoping they'll just say. I just think that would be easier. Everyone comes up with a tax plan, for, we'll make the taxes easier. I think instead of doing that, I think all we should do is call up the IRS and say, hey, this is my plan this year. This is what I'm thinking of doing. X, Y, and Z. And they'll go, all right, don't call us, we'll call you. Transition, bum, 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 transition, din, din, transition, din, din, transition. I clean my room, which means there's a 2-week window where I actually feel like I could bring a woman there. Fornication would be nice, I guess. I'm surprised, but I'm actually at a point where that might be fun to do, which is insane because I just find that the whole process of sex is stressful. It's just stress, 2 or 3, maybe 30 seconds of kind of enjoyment, and then stress. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm trying to explain this to my mother. I don't know why I'm talking to her about this. Probably should not be. But we have an open relationship. And I don't mean open relationship in the disgusting sense. I mean open relationship. Well, you know what? Then again, when I say disgusting, I don't want to judge. There are some mothers and sons perhaps who are into it, and I don't mean to judge. I do not. No judgment. I mean, as long as everything's legal, it shouldn't be. If it's a mother and a son, and the son's, 2. That's wrong. Wow, this went to a really dark place. I didn't want to go there. That is not at all where I wanted to go. The point I'm trying to make. What's the point I'm trying to make? I don't even remember the point I'm trying to make. Something to do with. Oh, I think I might be ready for a relationship with a woman who is, way above age of consent. Totally, that's totally what I want. I feel like I'm going to be arrested now. This could be played in a court of law. A jury is going to listen to me. Oh, and that's another thing I want to talk about. This is a very abrupt transition. But the reason why I voted against the death penalty, and I think it was because on the off chance that I'm framed for murder, I'm doing it to protect my own life. That's because if I don't do anything and I vote, either I don't vote or I vote for the death penalty, then if I'm like, well, with my luck, I'll end up on death row, and my mother will be saying, well, you had your chance to vote against the death penalty, you didn't take the chance. You didn't take the chance. It was in your hands, and you didn't take your chance. How do I wrap this up? What do we focus on? Because I feel like when I'm ending the previous podcasts, I don't really wrap it up into a nice bow. And I'm noticing that outside that, I think there's a Honda that is similar to the Honda that my mother has. Still has. I apologize for yawning. It's been a long day full of me worrying. But the Honda reminds me of a Honda that my mom has. It's a 1990 Honda, still running. The Honda's in better shape than anyone in the family. The Honda will outlast the family. All there's going to be at the funeral is the Honda. It's going to be the Honda and a rabbi, and the rabbi saying, "Can you give me a lift?" This is the end of the podcast. The end of the podcast. And the children sing and the children play. This is the end of the podcast.